We also get students involved in providing feedback to each other. One of the elements that they have to cover in their final reflective essay is a piece of we get them to collect multi-source feedback from 2 peers and from 2 members of staff, focusing on strengths, things to work on, and what the students' reflections on those are. And whilst there are some pitfalls in that, and generally it's because their peers want to be polite and don't want to upset them because they might well be their friends or they might be working in the same group. We often do see students getting feedback from their peers which is actually consistent with the feedback that they're getting from members of staff, and that reaffirmation, if you like, that sort of double whammy of actually there is something here that I could work on to improve, really seems to make a difference and provides a stimulus towards the end of the first year for further reflection and reflective practice that they can take into the final exam period, or if they're successful, then they can take on into the second year as well.
Is the value of that not also that they are able to review each other's work in progress and therefore get a sense of their position or relative, how they rate relative to others? So it actually helps with their self-assessment.
Yeah, so the formative assessments, they're multiple choice and what we call modified essay questions, and we also have clinical reasoning assessments which we do online formatively in the first year. So the student receives their mark back. They receive feedback on that. It may just be generic feedback for some forms of assessment, but for some it will be very much individualised feedback on their answer that they've written in response to that modified essay question. We don't tell them necessarily where they rank, but we will, after each formative assessment, publish some descriptive statistics of this was the range, this was the mean, this is the standard deviation for the students. So they can look and see, am I above average, am I below average, what do I need to do to improve? We see limited evidence, but some evidence of students asking their peers, well, I know that you do really well, can I have a look at some of your answers just to see where I'm going wrong, if you like, or where I might improve. And this year we've just started, and we hope to do more of a formal pilot study on the impact of peer marking or peer assessment. It would be done in parallel with staff also marking, but allowing students to see their answer to the modified essay question plus 2 or 3 others in a lecture theatre setting, where they simply get the model answer and they're able to then mark each other's and then pass them around. Students anecdotally have told us that they have found the small amounts of that we've done quite useful. And we'll encourage students in less formal ways and in ways that aren't necessarily linked to either formative or summative assessment to give each other feedback on, say, things like their communication skills in clinical skills sessions, or feedback on the specifics of a particular clinical skill that they're carrying out, and that's done in quite a structured way by the clinical skills team. I don't know if you're going to have a chance to talk to them about that.
Yeah,
would it be worthwhile me just outlining it, just for interest? So we have the students in clinical and communication skills sessions generally working in more or less the same group of about 10 students, say. Often, although not exclusive, but we try as much as we can to get them to work with the same staff facilitator in clinical and communication skills. And what we find is over the course of a period of 3 or 6 months or whatever, the students can actually they can start to learn a bit about their peers' communication style. So they can pick up on good and not so good elements of that. But it also means that they're able to say, for example, last time when I was trying this bit of history taking, I struggled with how to phrase this, or I struggled to get the patient to really open up to me on this particular point. That's something I'd like to get some feedback on today. Then they would go in and they'd do the history taking and invite feedback on how they had done. So there's a sort of reflection in action going on there, as well as reflection on their actions previously, which is, I think, a very powerful tool for self-improvement.